Hey, Coach Jones here. Gonna do a little instructional on how to wrap your hands. And I've got a bunch of different ways to wrap your hands. But the concept is there's not like too many wrong ways to wrap your hands. As long as you got wrist support and hand support, that's basically it. I'm gonna show a couple varieties of ways. But basically what you need right now is a starting point, because after a while everyone's got their own little way that they wrap their hands and the little things that they like. It's a very customized kind of thing. I'm gonna show the way that I wrap my hands, the way I've seen other people wrap their hands, the way I've tried to wrap my hands and I've been like, I don't like that way. A couple ways to wrap your hands for boxing, kickboxing, MMA, because when you're wearing the MMA gloves it's a little different. How to put your wraps away too, and how to clean them without them turning your whole laundry into a giant knot. So I'm gonna open up these wraps. Grab the random pair of wraps that we sell. They usually come all nice like this. You're gonna start with one hand first. You just bust that Velcro open and give a little whoof to unravel the thing. Pull it up. You're gonna get your little hooky guy here. Some wraps it'll say this end down, this end up, or whatever on close to this piece. It's so that when you get to the end, the Velcro will line up properly. But I got a super high level hack for that. One thing I see a lot of beginners do is they'll wrap their whole thing. The Velcro is not lining up properly, they'll unwrap the whole thing, and when you're new, wrapping takes a long time. So, to show my little high-level trick, if you put the wrap on upside down, don't redo your whole wrap. I put the thing upside down on purpose. If you get twisties, because twisties happen, remember to smooth them out. So, we've reached the end, and oopsie, if I wrap it, no bueno, no bueno. What do? Take the whole thing off, do it again, kick myself in the face for the mistake? No. Do that. Twist it, boom, you're done. There's different kinds of wraps too. These ones, what's called a Mexican style wrap. So there's a regular like cloth or canvas wrap, and then a Mexican style wrap. And what a Mexican style wrap is if you can see, there's a little stretch in there. This can let you make your wrap a little more snug. I like the Mexican wraps. You want to make sure that it's there doing what it's there to do, if that made sense. What I mean by that is you don't want your fingers turning purple. At the same time, you don't want it so loose that it doesn't do what it's supposed to do. Common thing that I'll see when beginners, especially when I teach like seminars with a lot of beginners, and I get them to use the gel wraps because they're faster. They'll wrap them up and it'll, like imagine these are gel wraps, they'll be like, excuse me sir, my wrist is sore, my hand hurts. Oh, your hand hurts. Why do you think that would be? The wraps are like garbage. They're not doing what they're supposed to do. So you want to make sure that it is a snug, but not too tight that it's ripping off your circulation, and not too loose that it's like, okay, what did I put these on for? Like I said, it's a personal preference. So you're gonna figure out like how you like to do it, and all of these options are just a good starting point. You're gonna change it. You're gonna do your own little custom thing after time. So just keep training, work it out, figure it out, see what you like. Anytime you put your wraps on and you're hitting things, you're doing stuff and they're loosening up, boop, just take them off, adjust, piece of cake. Another common mistake that people make is sometimes when they're doing the wrap, so imagine I did the wrap, they'll do it like up their arm because it looks badass, like a Ninja Turtle in the end. But there's no joint up here. There's nothing. So there's nothing bending. You don't need it there. So definitely don't do it there. You look like a meatball. Where your wrist bends, that's where you want the support, right there. First up, like I already know right now, I can tell that this is gonna be the wrappy side, or the bottom side, because of the way the fabric is. So it doesn't say it, but I know. What we're gonna do is put your thumb in this way. It's not the end of the world if you put it the wrong way. Not the wrong way, the other way. What I tend to see, I have seen over the years, people make a fist, and then as they're punching, this thing kind of falls off there. It just starts to loosen up the wrap a little bit. The way to lock this little hooky guy in so that your hand stays in the right spot is to go over the back of your hand. So go over the back of your hand, nice open hand. A little trick, just do 3 and 3, make X's. If you wanted to like have a good, hey, what do I do? 3 and 3s, make X's. I'm gonna go 3 times around my wrist. See the little guy right there? He's not gonna fall off no more. So 3 times around my wrist, because the most important part is your wrist. Because when you punch things, your wrist has the tendency to want to bend, buckle, and do funky things. One thing in particular is, especially on like looping punches, anytime there's an angle in your wrist and you don't have support, especially, that angle gets exaggerated. So if I have like an angle in my wrist and then I hit, it's gonna blah. So it gets a little exaggerated when you do smash something up. Most important is I want to make sure my wrist is nice and secure so I don't like jam or jack up my wrist. I go 3 times around my wrist. I'm gonna go 3 around my palm, just to make it like, hey, 3 and 3. Let's make this easy, right? You can change it after you get a good starting point. 3 times through your palm. That compresses the bones in your hand, makes it less likely you get a sprain. It gives you a nice little support. Go back to the wrist, then I start going over the thumb. Start on the back side of the thumb. I'm gonna loop through, go through the palm. Come over the front side, loop around the back. of the thumb. So you're just kind of crisscrossing around your thumb. Once I do this, it's just boop-a-boop-a-boop. Just put it wherever you feel like. So right about here, that's your start. 3 around the wrist, 3 around the palm. Support my wrist, compress the bones in my hand. They go boop-a-boop around the thumb. One side, the other side. That helps lock in your thumb, especially if you sprain your thumb. You're a shorter fighter like me. Sometimes you pop your thumb. That is your starting point. And then after that, you can do other little weird things if you want. Some people like to go through their fingies. I'll show you how to do that. Just wrap through and then go through your fingy. Wrap through, go through your fingy. And then once you're through your fingies, you're just gonna like kind of lock over it. So bring the wrap over. Oh, and you notice anytime the wrap does like a little weird fold, you want to just, make a nice, take a second, open it up, and then every time you're about to do another loop around, get a little pull, so that it's nice and a little snug. Just wrapping over that little crisscrossy spot, just kind of lock it in. Make sure it doesn't like flip and flop all over the place. Pretty locked in already. Going through your fingies, I hated that. I never liked doing that. I don't like it because I could feel it pulling on the webbing between my finger, and it's annoying. But you'll get used to it, just like anything. I would just wrap the thing around. I wrap it just like I'm an old Team Tompkins guy. I'd wrap mine just like Bosch and Sean would wrap theirs, which they're basically just flip them on. Very little like snug. This they just like flip them around and then tighten it up after that. Through the fingies, a lot of people do that one because it looks a little more badass. It's not a priority. Once you're about to finish your wrap, you want to lock it on where the most important spot is, which is your wrist. So you want to leave a good little extra space and then lock it over your wrist, because that's where you want the most support. And usually where you lock it tends to support the most. And if you need to adjust it, it's nice that it's here and like it's loosened up a little bit, and I can just like tighten it wherever I need to put a little extra support, and then finish it up on the wrist. So always finish it up on the wrist, and nice little wrap right there. Another option you could do, this one's a little tricky one. This is if you feel your knuckles are a little tender, soft knuckles. You grab your little guy like this, almost like you're putting it away, almost like you're putting your wrap away. You just flip it up like this, and you're creating a pad, which you can buy these like knuckle rusty pads. I would recommend a little bit of a longer wrap if you're doing this guy. So you make a little pad, you catch it with your thumb, you're basically putting it across your knuckles, give it a little wrap to hold it, then you gotta like poke your thumb out of there, and then you do the same thing. So the only thing you're missing, you don't have the thumb hooky, and then you just gotta lock it in so the thing doesn't move around a lot. So thumb hook's not the end of the world. I'm gonna do the same kind of thing. So I go like around my wrist after I start with this guy, because I gotta hold that in place. Go around my wrist, go around my palm, go over my thumb, lock it in one way, and then I go through my palm and then behind my thumb. So lock it in the other way. And then just wrap it up, lock it up on your wrist, boom. If you're doing MMA wraps, the reason why it's a little different, the gloves don't fit great. And sometimes, especially if you got gloves where it's hard to just get your hand in, like it's a little closed off here, that can be tough. So I usually use children's wraps. These are a pretty medium size wrap. I didn't look on the thing how big they are, but if you got more wrap more. If you got less, just put it where it's important, so it's not the end of the world. If you're doing MMA, you can't have a big poofy poof in the middle of your hand here, so I got the kids wraps. I use the children's wraps for that because they're short and they do the trick. So usually a lot of it is start samesies, 3 times through your wrist, and you just do like 3 times through your palm. That's usually it on the palm. So 3 and 3 still is a good little rule of thumb. And you like crisscrossy X's, just 3 in the palm. For me, dealer's choice. There's no wrong way to do it as long as you're giving yourself the support. But if you make this like too big, you're not getting your hand in there. You put the support around your wrist, and honestly, like this is what I would do for MMA wrap. I got my hand supported, my wrist supported. I might go through the thumb if my thumb's feeling a little messed up. Because if I go one time over my thumb and then go the other way over my thumb, that locks my thumb in, and that's only 2. So 3, 3, 2. Finish on your wrist with like 2 or 3. We'll stick with 3. And that's it. I got like all this wrap left. These are not particularly long wraps either. So I got all this wrap left. I don't need it. Maybe that's a good time to go up your arm like a Ninja Turtle, because you got to get your gloves on. It's, like I said, personal preference. If you got like MMA gloves and you're having trouble getting in there, I remember Team Tompkins were sponsored by Showdown Fightwear, which is old school. They had like a weird piece that you couldn't, it was really hard to get your glove in, so almost all the time we wouldn't wear wraps underneath them, because it's just funky to get your hand inside the glove. But once you're in there, you had space. So personal preference, figure it out. Another kind of wrap, which I don't have here, which I started using a long time ago, is what's called a gel wrap. Gel wraps are nice. Like I mentioned, I've broken my hands a bunch of times, which isn't super uncommon. And Everlast was the first ones to come out with a gel wrap. Maybe someone might know, but I think it's around like 2004-ish, something like that. But their first gel wrap was nice. It had gel. So gel wrap is basically like an MMA glove with a tail. And the tail's the most important part because that's going to lock in your wrist. But instead of leather, it's gel on top. And that gel is like a little more forgiving on your knuckles, which if you've broken your hands a bunch of times, it's kind of nice. They go on faster too, so they're great. They go on faster. When you put your boxing gloves on, they're nice and snug. Everlast was the first ones to make them that I saw, except for they made them more like workout gloves, the ones that I saw originally, where they had the gel, but it was just like you close the end, and there was no tail. And then other companies started coming out with gel wraps after that. We sell gel wraps here. They're fantastic. Over the years, I don't hit things as much as I used to. But over the years, I started using gel wraps a lot more because they're pretty forgiving. So if you fancy yourself some gel wraps, they're nice. So real quick, because this one's quick, I'm going to show the way I do my wraps. I do the same kind of start. So I go over the back. I literally just go flippy floppy. So Boss Rutan used to do it like this. So I was like, I like Boss Rutan. I'm going to do it like that. And he just like kind of flipped it around his hands. I like go through the thumb. I really get the wrap on there, just like loosey-goosey. I don't go through the fingers. And then I just start like tightening it up near the end, because that's good enough for me. I'm able to gear up and get ready for training real fast. Leave enough for your wrist so that you lock it up on the wrist, because that's the most important part that you want to hit. My hand feels snug enough. And then I just like lock it up nice and snug on the wrist. And if I'm hitting things and they start loosening up, I just fix them. So I do like that. Like, nothing. So no like, hey, I don't think that does anything other than look cool, which it does. But I just throw it on like that. That does the trick. A little tip with your wraps is don't be the dude that class is started and the warm-up's happening, and then you're just on the side putting your wraps on. We coaches, we know this. We recognize this. Hey, show up earlier or put your wraps on after. One nice thing is I can throw my wraps on in a couple seconds. I just like flip-flop them around. Hey, I go nice and fast. I don't do the through the fingers thing, which you can, but just get them on fast. Get them on. It's party time. You're here to train. I usually would suggest wait until after the warm-up to put your wraps on for a couple reasons. You're doing push-ups and this and that and all kinds of stuff, and then everything starts getting loose and falling apart. And then you got to redo it after anyway. And sometimes after warm-up, we do a little bit of clinch work. One thing that happens when you're doing clinch work, when you only have wraps on, instead of just hands or gloves, is Velcro starts scratching everyone's face apart. So that sucks. I would always just keep my gear off, unless I got there super early and I just don't know what to do. I don't want to sit there and pick my nose. I would put my wraps on or stretch. I would just put my wraps on before the rounds start. So if you can get your wraps on fast enough, that's the best time to do it. And it just takes a little practice. So practice at home. Make sure to get awesome at it. And although it's nice to be ready for class, and I wouldn't want anyone to be getting their wraps on while everyone else, the whole class, is working hard. That's a bad example. If everyone did that, what kind of class would we have, right? Don't be one of those dudes that you put your wraps on and then you go do like 4 hours of grocery shopping. It's about the same as like you see the 8-year-olds going to the grocery store with their karate uniforms on. It's cute because they're 8. Over the years, I've had a lot of people say, no, I don't want to wear wraps, I'm tough. I teach seminars throughout the school year for high school kids throughout York, Metro, and Durham region in our location. And I would say about every class, so 1 in 30, there is a meatball that thinks he's like a gangster grade 9 and he's too tough for wraps. He doesn't need wraps because it doesn't hurt. So it doesn't hurt because you don't hit hard. If you learn to hit hard with power, body, torque, you're going to mess your hands up. Just to make it easy, I'll tell them, listen, I don't want you bleeding all over my gear. That will usually get them to put their wraps on. Take a concrete wall and like hit it like this. It wouldn't hurt because I don't hit hard. But if I were to like smash the concrete wall with like a lot of force and torque, it will hurt. If I hit hard, it will hurt. Your hands aren't meant to hit things. Wrap them up so you don't make a yucky blood mess on someone's gear, because if you're new, that's usually the people who don't want to wear wraps are new people because they don't know what they don't know. And people that think they're super tough and it just doesn't hurt. Your hand has a lot of small, tiny bones in it that aren't meant to hit things. There's a lot of tiny bones in there where everything's going to get crunched up and compressed. If and when you do hit harder, it will kill your hands. Boxers know how to punch. In particular, it is the art of punching and smashing things with your hands. MMA guys know how to punch, kickboxers know how to punch, Thai boxers, all these guys know how to punch, but the one combat sport that is like just punchy, just your hands is boxing. And do they wear wraps? Yes. You can condition your hands almost in the same way that guitar players will condition their hands with calluses. So you can like toughen up here so that you're not gonna get all gushy blood everywhere. But you can't condition these small little bones in your hand. They can get like pretty good, but if you're hitting hard enough, you're gonna smash them. A lot of tiny connectors are gonna get shifted and bent. This one is like a twig right here. That's the boxer's fracture. It's the one that'll just break like a twig. So if you don't wanna wear wraps, you wanna go prison rules, you're gonna mess your hands up. Another common detail that can happen when you are new is you'll put your wraps on, you put your gloves on, and then it'll feel like a sauna up in there. It's just hot and steamy and gross, and it gets all moist and nasty. That happens, but you'll get used to it. Gotta power through. You gotta put them on, put your gloves on, put your wraps on. You want your hands to kind of like not have a lot of space. With that lack of space is gonna be a lack of airflow and all that stuff, and as you're working and putting in a sweat, it's gonna make your hands all moist, maybe gross, and not gross, but hot. You will get used to it, so power through. Different reasons to wrap your hands, just general training. When fighters are going into the ring, we get tape and gauze and basically a cast made. Amateur fighters usually have regulations with how many bits of tape you can use and things like that. Pro fighters, you get your hand wrapped in a giant cast. Training every day, you can wrap your own hands. I can wrap my own hands. It's expensive if you're to use tape and gauze every day, and it takes a long time. So that's ideal, but like instead of using tape and gauze every day and just like trashing the old bank account on that, this kind of stuff. So cloth wraps do the trick, or gel wraps, things like that. So when you're training every day, these are important, and sometimes you can use that over again. When your hand's all wrapped up, tape and gauze, if you feel like it, it's put together pretty nice. It's basically a cast, and they cut it, and then you just kind of peel your hand out of there, and then you can keep those. I never really kept them. I usually just like hack at it, and it's just unsalvageable. But I know a lot of guys over the years, I've seen them like they'll keep those, and they'll put them on, and then just like put a little tape around them. That brings up a good point. If your wrist is a little messed up, you got the wraps. After you wrap it up, lock it up here, sometimes it helps. Put a little extra tape, hockey tape, something like that. That'll help give you that little extra support until your wrist starts to feel better again. Another detail is how to put your wraps away. They will get tangled and tied up to everything. Just like how we made that little wrap pad, samesies. Do 3 or 4, whatever you're feeling. Wrap it up. I'm just wrapping it around this. A couple reasons. It's easy, and it's gonna create a little space so that it at least has a little bit of an opportunity to air out. It'll take forever if you're wrapping it like this, like rolling that little puppy up for like however long your wrap is. This guy takes a long time. Another detail when you're doing it the weird way is see how this guy's starting to curl up, and you gotta fix it and stuff like that. You got a lot of control if you got like your hands together like this. So fingers together, wrap, you just like zing it. Super easy. Boopity boop. Just like that. And the last detail regarding putting away your wraps and taking care of your wraps, you can throw some Febreze on there if you fancy, but how to wash them. I always recommend a Dainties bag to put your wraps in and then throw them in the washing machine. So a Dainties bag for the fellas. Girls buy to like wash their Dainties. I don't know what a Dainties bag is until someone suggested it to me. Hey, you should use this. So I started using it, and prior to that, I would like open up the washing machine and then have to like fight the wraps off my clothing. You put it in the Dainties bag, piece of cake. If you got like a couple sets of wraps, you put them in the same bag, then they don't get stuck to things. So this lets them breathe more than if you're like wrap them super tight. If you wanted to do them like this, after you wash them, you can throw them in the dryer. If they stay tight enough, you'd be solid. If you wanted to like keep it a little extra tight, do a little fold, crunch that thing up so you can pull it tighter so that in the wash it might not come undone, but it might come undone and strangle your clothing. If you do put it in like that, you felt like that one's the trick for you. When you get out, it won't dry very well, so you put it on top of a little vent. Air will blow into the vent and dry these puppies, but don't forget them. With your wraps, like I said, not a lot of funky ways that you can really mess up a wrap. The only way, like how you would mess up a wrap would be like all the wrap is in your palm and none of it's on your wrist, or something crazy like that. The wrist is most important. If I were to put all of the wrap on my wrist and none of it in my palm, that wouldn't be super incorrect. Sometimes bare knuckle fighters, you tape just your wrist, so there's nothing anywhere else but your wrist has that support. But your hands aren't meant to hit things. I've broken my hands 15 times. There's a common break called a boxer's fracture that is called a boxer's fracture because it's such a common break for boxers. Your hands aren't meant to hit things, so you do want to support them so that they're doing okay. So that's a breakdown of how to do the wrap. Right off the top of my head, that's all my wrappy wrap tips. If anyone has any tips on wraps, other ways they like to do them, or tips for wrapping them, or other reasons to wrap them, I guess. If anyone else might know any tips or that could add in the comments, that'd be greatly appreciated. I'm sure everyone would appreciate that. So that's how to do wraps. And to stay in touch with more things like these, like and subscribe, do all that stuff. Hope to see you soon.